Last night, the federal government revealed a whopping $11.6 billion will be spent on infrastructure. Liberal Patterson MP Bob Baldwin is pleased with the Hunters' share of the federal budget pie.
We've managed to obtain money for the Buckets Way, money for Turl Street Bridge, money for the Scone Bypass, as well as serious upgrades to the M1 motorway. Of course, what I'm really excited about is the money for Williamtown RAF Base, just under $1 billion for a redevelopment to house the Joint Strike Fighter.
But Labor's Joel Fitzgibbon says the region has missed out.
Well, if I didn't know better, I'd swear Bob Baldwin was smoking something. The only infrastructure items in the budget are those which were allocated by the former Labor government, fully costed and funded by the Labor government. There is nothing new. Indeed, we don't know yet whether they've taken some money away.
While the Samaritans this morning celebrated 30 years of its volunteers working in the Hunter with cuts to family tax benefits and welfare schemes, the agency says there was nothing sweet for it in the budget.
The danger the community faces is if you have large groups of people who have no income, homelessness increases, crime increases, there's more police called for, more prisons, which will actually cost more than paying people a decent basic income while they seek work.
And the government's planned increased tax on petrol will certainly make a difference to Newcastle community transport.
It'll just make it more difficult to operate. We don't run at a profit, we're not commercial, so any kind of increase impacts on us quite badly.
But there will be at least one big budget winner, with Hunter Medical Research Institute likely to reap the benefits of the government's Medical Research Future Fund, which will see around $2 billion generated over the next 7 years through the government's plan to charge patients $7 to see a GP.
That will also pay off for the Australian population in the long run. And as we said, HMRI will for sure get a fair bit of that money, and that will benefit the local population here as well.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
He's been the centre of attention.
I will not contest the next state election.
His omission of illegal election donors followed by a day of politics at his and the party's expense. Tim Owen might be on the move like the Liberal slogan says, but before his resignation, life isn't going to be easy.
There are always tough times you go through, but I know where I stand. I don't want to provide a running commentary on ICAC.
He can't provide a running commentary because of instructions from the corruption watchdog, but that wasn't the only distraction Tim Owen had today. Last night's federal budget only committed $40 million, not the $50.9 million promised for the Turl Street Bridge duplication, but the member for Newcastle has since sought assurances the long-awaited project is not in jeopardy.
The last progress payment will be $11.9 million from the federal government. So there is no jeopardy.
Meanwhile, a state government announcement is imminent on the preferred route for Newcastle's light rail. It's been reviewing 1,000 submissions, which closed last March. The more expensive Hunter Street option now a favourite after the $1.75 billion port sale.
We're not far away from that all beginning, so I'm very, very happy, and I'm very pleased for the people of Newcastle.
And the speculation about who'll be there to see it through continues. The Lord Mayor, Jeff McCloy, has told some of his colleagues he's considering a tilt for the seat of Newcastle. Nat Wallace, NBN News.
Grieving for a life lost and a sentence this family says is too lenient. When Joanne Warburton was killed on July 19, 2012 in a car crash on Industrial Drive, her son Nathan was travelling in the car in front of her.
I certainly think it's an injustice, and and knowing that I was there and witnessed my mum's pretty much her last breath.
After pleading guilty to dangerous driving occasioning death, 22-year-old Kurt Williams was today sentenced to 2 years and 3 months jail, with a non-parole period of 16 months. He was behind the wheel of this Holden, travelling at about 110 kilometres an hour in wet conditions along with 2 other cars when he lost control and crashed into Ms Warburton's car. Before handing down her sentence, Judge Helen Wilson said she was satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that the offender was engaging in dangerous and competitive driving. 3 witnesses said they could hear engines revving and that the vehicles were speeding and weaving.
Judge Helen Wilson accepted that Williams' remorse was genuine and took that into account, but she said the need for a sentence that would deter others from engaging in such dangerous behaviour remained.
Mr Warburton says young drivers need to be educated better, something he and his mother had discussed after witnessing dangerous driving on the same road she was killed.
Unfortunately, 1 week later to the day, my mother was killed because of those actions.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Ross William Gigg, a 58-year-old whose life clearly meant so much to so many. Around 600 mourners, even some of our greatest sporting stars, joined a family still in shock. He's gone. From the start, Gigg had something special. A 17-year-old playing for the Penrith Panthers. On the footy field, there was little he couldn't do, and it carried him through 110 first-grade games between 1974 and 1984.
He had a huge impact on me, being one of the senior men of the team and me being the youngest of the team. And look, I loved every moment that I played with Giggy.
But it was the track where Gigg would spend most of his time. A lover of the punt, only matched by his passion for harness racing. He transformed the Newcastle club in his 22-year reign.
To harness racing, he's irreplaceable. You know, he's done more for this area for harness racing than anyone I've ever known.
A heart attack might have cut his life short, but for those who knew him best, some comfort, knowing Ross Gigg made every post a winner in his 58 years.
A very talented footballer and an extremely gifted sports administrator. But above all that, he was an even better person. Rest in peace.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
Serving out his 2-match suspension has been hard work for Willie Mason. He's frustrated after having to watch what the side served up against Penrith.
That's 17 players dishing out, garbage. So, we're better than that.
The big forward also wasn't afraid to say what he thought went wrong in the 32-10 loss.
It's just some really simple errors from some individuals that cost us tries. So, them players will be looking this week to rectify all them wrongs.
But on the flip side, Mason feels that at his age, cooling his heels might be a blessing in disguise for the Red and Blues.
If I was 21, I'd be ripping my hair out. But as 34, you tend to look at things a bit different. It'll be a different story if we were winning, but we're not. So I'm looking forward to getting out there.
Wayne Bennett's men are now looking to turn things around against Manly on Monday night, and it won't be an easy task. The Knights last tasted success at Brookvale back in 2006.
It doesn't get any harder, you know what I mean? Brookvale is a hard place to win, and Manly's forward pack are renowned to be tough, and they're just relentless. So, as a forward leader in our team, I've got to be putting my hand up. We haven't put a wholehearted 80-minute effort in all year, so it'll be a good time.
Michael Kane, NBN News. It's a selection which means so much to three of the Jets' best.
Real honour and privilege.
It's something you dream about when you're a little kid.
An amazing experience that's right in front of you if you want it.
Josh Brillante, Mark Birighitti and Adam Taggart were today all named in Ange Postecoglou's 30-man squad in the lead-up to next month's World Cup in Brazil. For the A-League's top scorer, he believes it's a confidence boost for anyone willing to stay in Australia to ply their trade.
He's obviously watched the season, and it's massive credit to the A-League now. I think it shows what a competitive league it's becoming.
Josh Brillante's versatility, as well as playing a starring role in the Under-20 World Cup earlier in the season, left him in good stead.
To go away to something like that, to play against them sort of players at that level just gives you a little bit of a taste what it's going to be like for the next one.
Despite a late-season form slump, it seems to be a case of Postecoglou keeping the faith in a keeper.
Obviously, there was a few games there where I made some costly errors which costed the team 3 points, but that's football.
The trio will join the rest of the Socceroos squad in Gosford for a 2-week training camp in the lead-up to their farewell match against South Africa later this month. Michael Kane, NBN News.
The natural beauty of Murray's Beach enticed people to make this estate their home, but an unsightly and dangerous threat is encroaching on their way of life.
This is happening sort of all around in here, I mean, people just come down at night and they feel like, wow, this is a good spot, this is a tip, I'll just dump all of my building refuse, etc.
Asbestos has been bagged up and dumped just metres from homes. And it's not the first time the potentially deadly building waste has been left in local bushland. Well over a year ago, this pile was discovered. Residents say it was tagged by Lake Macquarie Council workers but never removed. And it's not just building materials being left by illegal dumpers. There are also fridges, cardboard boxes and this.
Someone's carried that mattress all the way in here and just plonked it right in this beautiful creek, you know. It's very frustrating. I don't know how these people are brought up.
The estate's developer Stockland says specialist contractors have been deployed to investigate the asbestos. They'll determine the safest and most appropriate way to dispose of the hazardous material. Meanwhile, residents will continue their fight against the dumpers.
The residents down here are very watchful of this. We're like sentinels now. We're taking number plates. People with trailers, we keep an eye on it.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
The road corridor has a number of issues because of mine subsidence, the steep topography and some contamination. So Council has made the decision to no longer identify the road corridor on its maps.
We have to create new opportunities and build businesses, and we can't do that without investing in new technology and in new ways of doing business. Innovation, it's not the answer to everything, but it's certainly a leading way of increasing productivity.
Little Hayley Tebble can't hear or talk, but the smile on her face when she's riding says it all. The 10-year-old joined Riding for the Disabled in Port Stephens late last year and loves it.
For someone that wasn't meant to be here and to see all these challenges that she's overcome and going through, and there'll be plenty more, it's awesome. It's rewarding. Every milestone's very rewarding.
Born with a rare genetic syndrome called CHARGE, Hayley's parents were told she would never walk. But 3 years ago, she got up on her feet, and after spending some time with Apache, she packed her wheelchair away last October.
Without a saddle, the movement of the horse enabled her to build up her core strength. And she went from just 5 minutes on the horse to about half an hour without anyone holding her up, and she was self-correcting.
She just had a wide gait. Now she just walks like you and I, legs side by side, one foot in front of the other.
And that phenomenal improvement has seen her named New South Wales Rider of the Year. Recognition too for one of the centre's volunteers, with Caitlin Jones receiving the Volunteer Encouragement Award.
I really like seeing how it helps the clients, because it looks like it really does help them out.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
I had a few phone calls here and there, but you know, I always, in my heart, I always just wanted to stay here. You know, I've been at a lot of clubs over the last 8 or so years, so I need a bit of stability in my life.
Cardiff and us have always been rivals, I suppose, and always had some pretty good games. We've played numerous grand finals over the last 10 years, and the rivalry's still there.
It's a clash that always evokes plenty of emotion.
You're always going to grow an extra leg and try and up your game a bit.
There's always a bit of feeling to be out there, and we're looking forward to it.
And there'll be more feeling than usual this Saturday after 4 Green players turned blue in the off-season. It still doesn't sit well with Merewether Carlton's captain.
That's what they did, and that's where they wanted to go. And it's like life. If you don't want to be somewhere, we'll get going.
Wanderers are currently on top of the ladder, and their pack will be bolstered by the return of Dylan Evans, who's set to start, and he believes the best is yet to come.
We've played well in patches. We haven't put an 80-minute performance yet. We probably played a good 50 or 60 minutes last week.
Merewether, meanwhile, will look to target a key area of the 2 Blues game.
We're going to focus on the breakdown. They've got a few niggling tactics in there that we're going to try and combat that we've noticed.
As for whether tempers will boil over,
there'll be a few words out there, mate, but we'll wait and see.
Well, Mick's pretty fiery, so he'll definitely be doing his best to get under our skin.
In other matches, Hamilton take on Easts, Maitland host the Marlins, Southern Beaches play the winless Roos, while the Premiers are away to the Students. Michael Kane, NBN News.
Once thriving, the Camberwell Open Cut and Glennies Creek underground mines were today desolate. Early this morning, workers packed into the Singleton Diggers Club to learn they no longer have jobs.
The membership is shattered. Look, it's hard, difficult times for the coal industry, but no one at either of those 2 mines expected those mines to close.
The union estimates almost 500 people are now out of work, a devastating blow to the community of Singleton.
It's going to have a massive impact. And look, it's devastating for their families as well. And it's another big kick in the guts for the coal industry.
Despite the fact it's closing, workers at the Open Cut mine will be required to continue operations until next Friday, when another meeting between employees and management will be held.
The current closure of the mine might be about wanting to reopen both those mines under a different working arrangements. For example, the use of contractors or labour hire companies. If that's the case, then we're going to be asking the question. We won't accept that.
Vale is yet to comment. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's hot honeysuckle property. What was the site initially proposed for the University of Newcastle's CBD campus could become home to 2 7-storey towers.
Pending approval, we would like to look to start construction first to second quarter of next year.
The developer says the $36 million project has been designed to blend in to the honeysuckle corridor. The plans comprise of 2 towers of similar heights to existing honeysuckle buildings. One will be commercial, the other residential. There'll be retail space underneath and concealed parking at the rear. The uni scrapped its plans for the site after unveiling designs for a Hunter Street campus. The developer describes both projects as a win-win for Newcastle.
This mixed-use opportunity that we're seeing today, I think will add significantly to the fabric of honeysuckle and the city, and it's good to see that the uni project as well as this project could go in tandem and add to that as in time to come.
Council and the Planning Assessment Commission will decide the fate of the plan, while the rail line's fate is a step closer to being sealed.
I've been assured by the Premier that we will have the rail truncated before the end of this year. Then we'll move to a process of installing light rail over the next 18 months to 2 years.
Meanwhile, Hunter Water will begin assessing offers for the 10-year lease of its building, with the expressions of interest period now closed. Georgina Smythe, NBN News. The Salvos say with each new year comes new challenges.
As time moves on now, things are challenging out there and more people are turning to the Salvation Army for assistance.
The 2014 Red Shield appeal had plenty of support as it was launched today. The impact of the federal budget on families was a big theme.
And that's going to put pressure on people on low incomes, people who are on benefits, etc. And so where are they going to turn? They're going to turn to the Salvation Army.
Susan Ange McLeish came all the way from Coonamble in the state's central west to tell of the hardship caused by the drought.
People just feel isolated, and when the chips are down, they isolate themselves even more.
The Hunter arm of the appeal will see parts of the town painted red next week.
Not only is the town hall lit, but the Greater Permanent Building Society is lit for the whole month of May. Watt Street Commercial Centre.
The door knock takes place next weekend. Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
All roads led to Scone, where Cup Day was the hottest ticket in town. The thoroughbred capital played host to all the colour and excitement only a Premier Country race meeting can bring.
We're expecting in excess of 10,000 people, and it has a huge impact on the economic value and of course the social value to town and the Upper Hunter as well.
For bookie Wade O'Shea, this was one of the biggest days of the year.
Probably the best race day on the calendar for country bookmakers.
And on the track, the carnival couldn't have had a better start. The Scone-trained It's a Shamozzle took out the honours in race 1. But off course, the real challenge was picking the correct attire.
And what inspired you to go fluoro this year?
I just like the colour. I just think it's nice and bright. Yeah, pretty much it, yeah.
Is it about the fashion or is it about the racing?
The fashion. Fashion, definitely the fashion. Yeah.
And it wasn't just Ladies' Day.
We've got to boost ourselves somehow.
While today saw Australia's biggest country race meeting, Sunday will see its biggest country sale.
Probably a gross of around about $2 million will be spent here on Sunday on about 210 lots. And this year we've got some horses by the likes of Exceed and Excel, who was a champion sire a couple of years ago, Sebring, who's had a super year this year.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
With Newcastle preparing for a crucial game against Manly, a limping Joey Leilua wasn't what the doctor ordered. He had scans on his hamstring this afternoon and will be monitored ahead of Monday's clash. Despite the setback, the players say it's been a great week at training following the embarrassing loss to Penrith.
Had a few things we obviously needed to work on after the weekend and get our heads around, and I think a longer turnaround's probably helped us.
Fullback Darius Boyd has copped plenty of criticism for his efforts this season. His teammates won't let him take the blame.
Across the board, all of us have been down in form, so there's certainly no one in the squad pointing fingers and blowing up.
In positive news, Willie Mason and Corbin Sims return from suspension to bolster the pack. In their absence, 20-year-old Joseph Tarpany made his debut in front of family and friends from New Zealand.
Happy they were over here, even just having a family dinner at home before the game just made me feel good.
Named on an extended bench, he'll find out on Monday if he'll face the Sea Eagles.
Manly's a good team. I've watched them on TV since I was little, and they've always been tough, and I don't expect anything different this week.
Meanwhile, the Knights have announced their second mining family day will be held on June 8 when they face the Tigers. As part of the event, the club and the Minerals Council have launched a competition where fans can pick their greatest Knights lineup. Country music star Catherine Britt this morning became one of the first to submit a dream team. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
It might be the day where his hometown lets its hair down, but for Scone trainer Paul Massara, it's just another day at the office.
This is a busy day, not too much time, but after the second last I'll be finished for the day and I'll be over there for a quiet beer.
In day one of the two-day meeting, he had no less than 10 runners going around, and it was all about getting the job done.
You always like to win at your home track, that's for sure. I've kind of got a lot of each-way chances on the day. A couple of good horses have drawn badly, so I need a bit of luck in running.
Massara had high hopes for Taran Gower in the fourth.
He's been out for a little while. His form's very good though. He's been gelded since his last start, and he's in good form today. No trouble at the mile first up. I don't think that'll be a problem for him.
And it delivered the goods. Massara's luck extended to race 6 as Tail Risk held its stride when it counted. But it was Rowie in the Scone Cup, which he really had his eye on.
He's an outside chance, but we've won with an outside chance before, so we're fingers crossed.
But it was John O'Shea's Cameo which made more than just that. Paying $21.70 for the win and $6.10 for the place. Michael Kane, NBN News.
He spent 4 years at the Knights, making his first-grade debut against the Cowboys in 2012. But when Chris Adams was told he wasn't first or second choice at hooker, he decided his future lay in the real NRL with Cessnock.
I've had a bit of soft spot when I went there in 2009, and I always wanted to go back there and do something for the locals because they've always been good to me there.
The timing couldn't have been better. With Terence Siu moving to Maitland, Adams has become a big part of the Goanna success and even won the battle for the hooking role in the Newcastle rep side. With Brown brothers Riley and Joel running the show, Adams believes Cessnock is a title contender.
We've got a side there that can do the job, I reckon. We just need to be patient and hold the ball, but it's probably a bit early to tell.
This Sunday, the Goannas face a Souths team coming off the back of a tough loss to Wests.
It was a tough game, but we'll be better for the run. We're only our third game into the season, so we're not stressing about anything yet.
With the club set to scale back its recruitment plans for 2015, Coach Adam Bettridge has announced this will be his last season in charge.
Just let that settle for a bit and, hopefully there's a job that pops up somewhere. If not, I'll just go back to coaching juniors, mate.
The game at Townsend Oval marks Old Boys Day and coincides with the final appearance in the real NRL for Matt Shipway. In other games, the Sharks host Curry tomorrow. The Butcher Boys are at home on Sunday. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Second last on the ladder, but it's off the field where the Knights' real problems are. It was a closed shop at Knights headquarters today after revelations up to 20 players and staff are still waiting to be paid wages that were due on Thursday. And there's not much sympathy on the street in a once loyal red and blue town.
Their boss is bankrupt. What do they expect?
I feel very sorry for the players, but I could see this coming a long time ago.
But it seems Nathan Tinkler's pockets have become deeper after recently purchasing a mine for $150 million. It also forced the game's governing body to issue a statement saying the NRL will take whatever action is necessary to protect the Knights, the game and most importantly the players and staff as a result of these actions.
Hunter Sports Group were unavailable for comment today, but a spokesperson from their PR company said the payments had been withheld to force the NRL into a decision on the club's future, but denied they were holding players and club officials to ransom.
And that's all due to the NRL's negotiations with the Knights Members Club, which is still living in hope that HSG transfers its assets, including the $10.53 million bank guarantee, before it goes to the courtroom.
We hope that they'll do that early next week. If not, there's only one place to go after that, unfortunately, to the courts.
In a statement late this afternoon, Hunter Sports Group said HSG will ensure any outstanding wages are paid next week and hope the ownership dispute can be resolved immediately. Michael Kane, NBN News. With hundreds of mining jobs at risk, at least 2 Hunter Valley towns are worried for the future.
We have about 40% of our workers employed in mine-related industries, and every job cut has an effect on our economy.
Mining giant Varley yesterday announced around 500 people are now without jobs with the closure of the Camperwell open cut and the Glennies Creek underground mine near Singleton. Becoming more versatile on the skills front is what the Cessnock Mayor is now calling for.
I think we need government support to work on further developing employment land so there's a diversity of employment.
And in light of this week's budget announcement, the Shadow Minister for Agriculture believes the blowtorch should be applied directly on the coalition.
This is the wrong time to be imposing new taxes, and it's the wrong time to be cracking down unnecessarily on the unemployed.
Meanwhile, down the road, the hits keep coming for the town of Curry. Still reeling from the closure of the Hydro aluminium smelter, the local business chamber is still upbeat.
Curry's well placed. It's only 35 minutes out of Newcastle. It could be a major residential hub, and we just got to reinvent ourselves as a business community.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
This Hawaiian big wave surfer is used to taking on monsters in his North Shore backyard, but he looked right at home on the shores of Shoal Bay today.
Just a little smaller, but the water is gorgeous, the weather is beautiful, and so you can't ask for everything.
These days, the surfing legend is happy to front the stand-up paddleboard movement, a more traditional form of Hawaiian surfing, using a longboard and a long-handed paddle.
It's just something that reflects surfing, that it's about sharing and it's about enjoying the water, it's about having fun.
Today, the festival's activities included a 13-kilometre marathon from Soldiers Point to Shoal Bay, where 65 competitors battled it out to qualify for this year's Australian titles. The race also included a few surfing veterans.
So we've got open men, open women, over 40s and over 50s. You really see a lot of people. There's actually more in the over 40 division than the open men.
But beyond competition, the public was encouraged to have a go, with the sport gaining popularity due to its accessibility.
It's got a pretty vast window for, participants because it can be done anywhere. I guess that is the beauty of stand-up paddleboarding. It can be done in lakes and oceans, pretty much any giant body of water.
The event will run until tomorrow. Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
Back in the day, there was no such thing as recreational, so it was all work, it was all commercial. It was used to build bridges, build wharves, fix dams or build them.
The home side grabbed the early advantage as Ed Bacigalupo landed a long-range penalty. Former Green Billy Coffey received a special welcome back from the Merriweather faithful. Country prop Dylan Evans needed some running repairs before Carlton blew an easy chance to extend its lead. A clash between these bitter rivals rarely ends without some push and shove. Once play resumed, it was Wanderers who tied things up through James Wivel. The Greens spread the ball wide, but the two Blues had Louis Dunn covered. The first half then became a battle of the boot. Wivel added two more penalties. Bacigalupo won as the visitors claimed the lead 9-6. Shortly before the break, Evans earned a yellow card. His opposite number, James Snedden, joined him a minute later. The second half was a different story. Coffey calmed the nerves with the game's first try. Wanderers extended their advantage to 15 points when Tapaki Rahui raced over. Bacigalupo gave the green room something to cheer about as he grabbed Merriweather's first. With the result hanging in the balance, Luke Menchin earned himself an unwanted spell. But the Greens couldn't take advantage and soon lost a player of their own in Chris Ward, as Wanderers remained undefeated. When Nathan Tinkler took control of the Knights, bringing Wayne Bennett to town was the top priority. These days, it seems the coach is just another face in the crowd.
Have you had any contact with Nathan since Thursday or Friday?
I haven't personally, no.
Bennett today revealed most of his players have received their latest paycheck, but officials and staff are still waiting.
You're one of the people that haven't been paid? Well, I'm on staff, so...
For now, the 7-time premiership winner is focusing on tomorrow's clash with Manly, having already addressed the missing wages.
Oh, we did that on Friday afternoon. Yeah, everybody's fine. There's no problems. Everyone's getting on with their job, and we're confident we'll be paid.
As for the ownership of the embattled club, CEO Matt Gidley, Chairman Paul Harrigan and the coach himself have reportedly been given little information about the negotiations between the NRL and the Hunter Sports Group. But Bennett believes a resolution is close.
Probably would think that the next week that's the information we're getting, that should be some form of decision made and we all know where we stand.
That decision will influence whether he sees out his contract with Newcastle.
Until the new ownership model's in place, no one knows what their future is here, to be honest with you. Once it's in place, they might make different decisions. So just got to wait and see.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
For Sonia Tamplin and her family, this year's Variety Bash is bittersweet. Her husband Tony, who was a champion of the charity, passed away just before last year's bash. This year, they're stepping up to the challenge to keep supporting his favourite event.
I think 13 years ago was his first bash, and he was hooked after that. So we just thought, as a family, we'd love to, if we could, we can't replace him, but take his place.
It's one of the few things that I can do that Dad had done, and he got so much enjoyment out of it. I'm hoping I do as well.
The outfit's inspired by Tony's iconic moustache.
He used to actually be a bit cheeky with the bosses at work because apparently you could only grow moustaches to a certain width across your face, and Tony's was way too wide, so he started to curl it in and put wax on the tips.
Organisers say support for the 7-day event has been strong. More than 240 people or characters will be on the road.
It's very gratifying to see so many people supporting our cause and especially this event. It's just a great event. They have so much fun and they raise so much money.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News. Individual training that's all about preparing for a more united future for the Army. Over the past week, British and Australian soldiers undertook what's called foundation warfighting at the Singleton military area.
It's how to be a soldier, how to live in the field, and we've been exercising their headquarters so that they can control 550 people in the field, something that we haven't done in quite a long time.
The training will prepare reserve troops for a more important role as a group within the Army.
We are moving into a phase where the Army Reserve is becoming a more integral part of the Army capability overall. In the past, Army Reserve elements have been taken on exercise as individuals.
And it was also about giving British troops on-the-ground experience in a different environment.
It's very realistic, and that's what it's all about. So coming out here and living tactical, this is what we're trying to achieve, to simulate war.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
He's had a torn stomach muscle for a couple of weeks now, and he played with it last week. He did in the warm-up the country game, and he played that game, and he's been sore. I don't think New South Wales have got that much talent. They can't put those squad in their team.
The home side didn't take long to open the scoring, Ryan Pywell crossing out wide. A Cessnock mistake put the Lions back in range. Souths looked to the other wing as Lewis Schneider doubled the advantage. Cessnock received a lift as Riley Brown combined with Chris Pine to take the visitors deep into enemy territory. 3 plays later, Chris Adams ducked and weaved to set up Brendan Halad. Down 10-4, the Goannas were right back in it when Brown teed up Al Lantry. Just as Souths looked like losing control of the contest, fullback Steve Witters produced a little bit of magic. The Lions edged further in front shortly after the break as Scott Briggs grabbed his first. Leading 20-8 for the majority of the second half, Pywell capped off the win with his second. Departing captain Matt Shipway may have missed the conversion, but the Lions were all smiles.
It's been a tough 6 months for the mining industry in the Hunter. Hundreds of job losses and, much worse, 3 fatalities. 2 deaths just last month when Jamie Mitchell and Philip Grant lost their lives while working underground at the Ostar coal mine at Paxton.
We are generally a very safe industry, but we do deal with some hazardous conditions, and we have seen a recent spike in the number of incidents and unfortunately in the number of fatalities.
But today, at the annual Mine Safety Conference, it was a chance for the industry to refocus. With 80% of all accidents caused by human error, the sector says it's working harder than ever to educate workers and minimise risk.
When we go back through the data, there isn't different ways of people getting killed or getting seriously hurt. The damaging energies are really similar, so we've got to learn from those lessons of the past.
New technology and techniques were on display. A demonstration of an industrial accident was also completed by Mine Rescue. Mr Galilee also using the opportunity to urge workers not to dwell on the recent loss of 500 jobs in the region.
The industry's been going through some tough times recently. There's been a lot of job losses. There's been a lot of talk about more job losses. It's important that we and our people aren't distracted by those things.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Jobs, skills and state contracts were all on the table.
It is about saying that you're serious about local manufacturing.
The opposition leader's early election push in the Hunter today wasn't short of political issues, nor was it short of problems.
This is a beautiful facility.
Refused access at the Newcastle West TAFE campus, then our cameras were denied access to his next so-called media event.
I'm sorry about that. I thought that was all taken care of, and I've just been told that's not the case.
But John Robertson, flanked by Labor's Hunter team, is promising the state at least will be run better.
Obviously now with candidates pre-selected in the majority of seats in the Hunter, we're going to be stepping things up a level.
Including his pitch to keep the rail line into Newcastle. The opposition doesn't believe cutting the line will rejuvenate the CBD, and perhaps what turned out to be a closed-door meeting with business leaders answered a few questions on what Labor will do.
Are you confident those developers won't go running if you're elected?
I'm confident that those developers will know exactly where they stand with Labor, and that is a commitment to the rejuvenation of Newcastle CBD. But we're not going to cop these lazy development solutions that see a heavy rail line, the best piece of infrastructure you can put in place for public transport, ripped up.
The Liberal Party's rail timeline is set in concrete. And if Labor can't change it, then it will try and throw some dirt at the Maitland MP who it affects most.
She's shown absolutely total disregard for the people of Maitland on this issue, and she has betrayed them and broken a promise.
What I want for the residents of Maitland is to make sure we've got more options available, so light rail that can take people around the beaches.
John Robertson even going as far as calling for the project to be halted while the ICAC continues to investigate claims of illegal donations to the member for Newcastle, Tim Owen.
There's a real cloud hanging over the head of this whole project.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
It can get hot in the kitchen, but at Charlestown Bowling Club today, it was sizzling. Executive Chef Greg Hawke and sous chef Damien McInnes preparing to be judged tonight in Clubs New South Wales's Chef's Table final event.
The build-up is probably the hardest part. Now it's, what we do best is jump out and cook.
They've designed a mouth-watering menu featuring the competition's signature ingredient, spatchcock.
We've got a chicken and shiitake mushroom terrine. It's part of our entree base.
A spatchcock confit and pickled drumstick round out the entree, while the main is oven-roasted spatchcock with heirloom veggies. Dessert, well, that's for the judges' eyes and mouths only.
It's stimulating, you're going through books and you're going through this and that and going through what you've done in the past to where you can come up with something innovative enough to get you across the line.
I'm pretty confident what I can do, and with Greg, he's pretty good, I suppose.
You're a good team?
Yeah, we go all right.
Better than that, they're one of only 15 finalists, with West's New Lambton also in the running. The winner will be crowned in July.
He gained valuable experience representing his country at the Under-20 World Cup, but Josh Brillante says a camp such as this is a massive step up.
I've had a few sessions already and the intensity's been already very high, so I'm very excited for the next few days looking up to the South Africa game.
If he didn't already appreciate the magnitude of his time with the Socceroos, yesterday's session at Gosford hammered it home.
The amount of fans that turned up just for a training session was pretty unbelievable.
Brillante is one of 3 Jets vying for a place in Ange Postecoglou's 23-man squad for Brazil. The players admit they have no idea whether they'll play against South Africa on May 26, let alone fly to South America. For Adam Taggart, it caps off a breakout season.
It was a fantastic learning curve and something that's really helped me develop, but going into Rio, there's no expectations of playing or anything like that. It's about just working as hard as I can. If there's an opportunity, then I'll be ready to take it.
Brillante and Taggart are both being linked with clubs overseas, but for now, they're still Newcastle Jets.
As a little kid, you always dream to play overseas. You know, that's where the big leagues are. But at the moment, I'm still contracted with the Jets for the next season, and you know, while I'm on camp, I'm just concentrating on making that team to go to Brazil.
At the moment, all my focus is on the Socceroos and the training camp, and that's something for my management group to, to do their best to try and sort something out.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. He set some of the fastest times in the opening two events of the Red Bull Air Race series, but run-ins with pylons have cost Merewether's Matt Hall valuable points. In Malaysia, the former RAAF pilot was quickest in practice and didn't look like slowing down in the Super 8 round. By the end of the run, Hall had produced the second fastest time, easily advancing to the final four. In the main event, Hall made an uncharacteristically slow start. He picked up the pace at the back end of his run to move into contention. It was good enough for third spot as the Aussie scored his first podium this season, moving up to fifth overall in the series. From the air to the track, and Aaron Russell showed plenty of improvement in race 2 of the V8 Development Series in Perth. Having avoided some early carnage, the Novocastrian motorsport driver edged his way into 8th. That's where he stayed for more than 30 laps, moving to 12th overall in the series. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.